Hello, everyone, and welcome into crushthestreet.com. I am Kenneth Amadori, and I'm joined today with a very special guest, a returning guest, Ameer Rosic of blockgeeks.com, someone who I believe to be very, very well versed in the crypto space, someone who just has been in it for a very long time, understands it, has deep knowledge, and I believe is going to shed some light as to what is going on in 2020 in the crypto markets. I mean, is the halving going to have an effect on Bitcoin? A lot of people are thinking that we might have a run up into the halving, and then we see a pullback from there, as opposed to maybe what we've seen in the past. So we're going to have a great conversation today. Thanks, Ameer, for coming on crushthestreet.com.
And my pleasure, man. Good to be back.
Well, it's an honor to be speaking to you here in February 2020. Crypto's on the up and up. Bitcoin at $9,000. I mean, really coming off of that low we saw. And let's just get your thoughts here. What are your general thoughts on Bitcoin? Why are we seeing this move higher? Is it geopolitical uncertainty? Is it inflation hedging? Other sound money vehicles are doing well, so therefore it's spilling over into Bitcoin. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I know a lot of people talking about the halving, but when you look at the whole crypto market, it's very tiny compared to any other crypto markets. And at the end of the day, what most people are doing is swing trading, or more or less, they're trying to time the markets in that fashion. So when I hear people talking about the halving price hasn't been implemented or adjusted within the price, I'm like, that's crazy. Like, we're literally talking about the halving. If you don't think so, the price is already baked into it, then you're crazy. Now, like any markets, people, let's say for the most part, majority of people, they are irrational creatures. Most humans are irrational. We function on our emotions as opposed to logic and rationale. And so market goes up, people buy, market goes down, people sell. They follow the emotional ups and downs of that. And so when looking at Bitcoin, there's a couple of things to take into consideration. As a hedge, yeah, it can be a hedge for asymmetrical returns. Like, it'd be really foolish of you if you are, let's say, a professional investor, whether you are a hedge fund or sovereign wealth fund, or somebody looking for more asymmetrical returns for upside. It'd be foolish of you if you at least don't put 1% of your, let's say, fund or value within there, because the returns outweigh the risks. Now, when looking at Bitcoin as a hedge versus something else, I don't think so that's quite accurate to say. It's still highly volatile. Yes, the price has increased a lot. This is why, once again, I'm not a fund manager, etc., but this is why most people that I trust and I respect, they allocate 1% within Bitcoin. Now, going back to the halving, I think the halving will come and go like it's been done in the past. I think there's going to be a lot of buildup when it comes to news. I think a lot of people that aren't within the space that sees the news hype, they will obviously start buying if there's a upswing within trading. But the whole idea that there's going to be a massive spike within Bitcoin, I think that's not really the case. It's going to be interesting to see how miners behave afterwards, because what the halving is the reduction within the Bitcoin mining reward. It reduces by 50%. And so there has to be a minimum value of Bitcoin to hold for miners to keep on mining for profitability. I'm not too sure what those numbers are. I think it has to be above 4,500, if I'm not mistaken, roughly around the 4,000s to be profitable for miners. And so it's going to be more interesting post-halving to see how miners behave. And so I think in the long run, for me, it's remarkable where Bitcoin is today. Like, I remember when I entered the industry, there was only Bitcoin. There was nothing else. And it was really fringe meetup groups that we got together. And I don't know what the price was. Price was like double digits or something like that. So it's remarkable.
Fringe meetup groups. I love that. That's funny.
Yeah. It's literally remarkable where we are today, where Bitcoin has a ticker on Bloomberg. Governments are talking about this, or they're talking about this in Davos. Huge sovereign wealth funds are allocating a percentage, like all this within 10 years. Now, people talk about no adoption. I'm like, holy fuck, where we got it in 10 years in my eyes is fucking crazy. It's remarkable how far we got in 10 years.
Yeah, no, it's interesting, right? I mean, we've had 5,000 years to figure out and to discover what the price of gold should be. And I know there's a lot of talk about manipulation, but Bitcoin has only had 10 years for the world to discover it. And that discovery phase is something I still believe we're very much in, even though despite the fact that it's on Bloomberg and CNBC and things like that now. I didn't realize they talked about it at Davos, though.
Yeah, they're talking about Davos because the major thing they're talking about was volatility, digital currency, store of value. Obviously, the overarching theme on Davos is digital currency, since China announced they want to do the renminbi as a digital currency vis-a-vis on their own blockchain. And I have a lot of friends who work with central banks around the world, and that's kind of the number one agenda right now. And I think it has a lot to do as well with the announcement of Libra. So that put a lot of fire underneath them. It's like, oh shit, that's kind of a threat. In reality, it is a threat, even though it is an index. Well, we don't know 100% exactly how the consensus will be as of today, but more or less it's an index of different fiat baskets. But it is them creating their own digital currency that could supersede other nation state currencies. And so it's just a natural evolution of money. Now, it will be interesting to see how they execute this. It'll be interesting to see how they utilize it. But more and more, we are seeing now that the central banks of the world are now focusing, and I don't know how long it will take. If we look at governments in general and big bureaucracies, it will take a long time because it is a bureaucratic machine. But the direction is heading that majority of all nation state money will be, I'll bet, in our lifetimes digitized.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting what you said there, not being direct competition, but indirect competition. And it's the same thing with people, comparing McDonald's to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. If someone's going to McDonald's, they're not going to Ruth's Chris that day, right? It's just, they're not direct competitors, but at the same time, if you're using one, you're not using the other. So it's an interesting point you make. Kind of going back to what you were talking about in terms of human emotion and the halving, what do you think this bull market will look like? Everyone tries to make the comparisons to what we've seen in the past. I mean, the next exponential logarithmic point for Bitcoin to reach is like $100,000 based on all the peaks and troughs that we've seen in the past. You know what I mean? I'm just looking at all these different charts, but all of this is predicated on the fact that we can expect what we've seen historically. Do you anticipate this bull market to look similar to what we've seen in prior runs?
No, I don't think so. We're ever gonna see a repeat of 2017 with the ICO craze that hit retail investors. It was a wild west. It was brand new. There was no regulations. A lot of these ICOs were raising ridiculous amounts of money because of the returns people got from Ethereum. Like 99.99% of these ICOs are ERC20, so they're issued on Ethereum. And a lot of people made a lot of money on Ethereum, and they had that liquid capital to funnel into other ICOs. Now, will we see a gradual increase in the total valuation of crypto assets? Yes. We have the advent of DeFi right now, which is not ICOs, but more or less interesting derivative products of interest rates, synthetic tokens that are derivatives of crypto assets such as Ethereum and in the future Bitcoin. And so we will see the total value capture within crypto increase within crypto assets, but I don't predict, even though there's a saying history doesn't repeat but it rhymes, I don't think so we're ever going to see that crazy wild west of 2017.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you. I don't know what it's going to look like, but I have a feeling that it's not going to look like what everyone is anticipating. Everyone's expecting.
Well, look at this. We have much more clear-cut regulations. The SEC, so the Securities Commission in the United States, is on it. We have global securities commissions looking at it. We have much more advanced tracking technologies with chain link analysis. There are way more eyeballs within the space. The space has matured. People have grown up. I think a lot of people who got burnt, and the majority of people got burnt within the ICO craze, like total ERC20s from the ICO craze are down 95.2%. no one really made money unless you're like the insiders pumping and dumping within that short period of time. And so a lot of people are in pain, and they got hurt within that. So I don't think so. It will repeat. However, I think more or less, I don't like the word smarter money, but people that can withstand downside will gravitate towards this new asset class. And like any Pareto's law or Zipf's law and principles, you have 80-20 principle. And so as of today, we have the narrative. Remember, there's technologies, there's regulations, but there's also storytelling. There's a narrative. What is the zeitgeist of the time? The zeitgeist hasn't changed, with Bitcoin is still being king. I don't like to call it a store of value per se, because it's not really a store of value when it fluctuates, but more or less it behaves kind of like digital gold. In fact, better than digital gold. We know the issuance. We know exactly how much miners make. We know how much will be minted through the mining protocol within every single day. And we know, roughly speaking, how much Bitcoin is lost. So it's all mathematics. We've calculated how much will be created within the network, how much value can be captured in the network. And so investors, globally speaking, that have that risk tolerance for that, they will gravitate towards this vis-a-vis digital gold within Bitcoin, or now the narratives are coming within Ethereum, and we'll see other ones. I know a lot of Bitcoin maximalists will say it's just Bitcoin, but that goes against the laws of nature, and it goes against Zipf's law. Bitcoin, yes, might remain king, but there's going to be a bell curve. It's going to be, you'll have, let's say, 4 to 10 crypto assets that have value and have different value for different reasons, and you're going to have a long tail of all these different other ones.
Let's touch on that for a little bit. Let's talk about Bitcoin's limitations, and how much do you believe is that an issue for Bitcoin going forward, especially when it's talking about number of transactions, fees, and ability to handle many transactions, and the implications of Lightning Network. Is this something that is a viable solution for many of the things that people are concerned about when it comes to Bitcoin?
Well, that question, it's a good question, but the problem is a lot of people try to group everybody in the same category. Like, let's say you are an institutional investor, a sovereign wealth fund. You really don't care per se about Bitcoin adoption. You don't really care about Lightning Network or people using this as payments. What you care about is the fact that blocks are mined every 10 minutes. It's censorship resistant. The narrative, remember, it's the narrative that matters. The narrative is digital gold. If the narrative wasn't digital gold, money wouldn't be flowing into Bitcoin. If the narrative was just a payment token, then why would anyone put money within a payment token? And that's why I'm pretty sure all payment tokens failed as an ERC20. Now, the Lightning Network is a different set of users. These are regular users. Now, we're still early within the Lightning Network evolution, and I think as of today, I wouldn't per se recommend it for people to use. It is quite complicated, but they're making fast progress, and I think we still need a couple of years of maturity for the Lightning Network to emerge, and then eventually people will use Lightning Network. Now, there's an interesting dynamic here, though, because let's talk about psychology here. Let's say you have $100 worth of Bitcoin. And so how Lightning Network works, at least today, is it's like state channels. So a percentage of Bitcoin needs to be locked into a contract that opens up a gateway, a portal between you and somebody else. So let's say point A to point B. Okay. Now, once you lock up that Bitcoin, it doesn't do anything else. It just secures that network, and you can then send super cheap Bitcoin across to different people. And then other people lock it up, and you create all these different nodes. Now, if I have $100 of Bitcoin, and my narrative, my psychology is Bitcoin is a store of value, it's digital gold, and it's going to slowly increase over time. We'll give it a conservative increase. Like, let's say, even if we can map it out, it increases 5% per year compounded, right? Very conservative. I, as an individual, will, same thing like gold. Why would I use my digital gold, as in Bitcoin, as money? I wouldn't, right? Because I know it's appreciating in value. So I'm going to hoard it, or hodl, as they say. So it's interesting seeing the dynamics. I'll be interested to see how this narrative and the psychology evolves and matures, because as of today, I have this dissidence. I don't see the reasons of why would I spend my Bitcoin, because for me, I view it as a long-term asset that appreciates, no different than real estate. So I wouldn't be spending it.
Well, let me follow up then. I guess and I'll take Roger Vere's sort of stance on this. I mean, his thing is, what's the value? Why would you have this long term view of Bitcoin if it is a problem to send and there are these issues with it? Like, is it really digital gold if it has these underlying problems? Like you're saying, why would I spend it? But take it back, peel the onion back a step further and say, well, you wouldn't want to spend it because it has all this value. You can use it, and it has all this utility, right? And I'm
Well,
not disagreeing with you, but I just wanted to
listen,
kind of take it back a little bit more.
what makes Bitcoin unique is censorship resistance. If most other chains, you have a cabal where people can change their protocol at any given time, they can change new consensus rules, and they can manipulate it. Now, Bitcoin is almost impossible to manipulate. This is what gives it value. It's not per se, can I transact? And I don't know what people are talking about. Like, I can send you Bitcoin right now using many different wallets and cost me pennies on the dollars to send you thousands of dollars. And it's not like you need that thousands of dollars a second. You can wait 10 minutes to get your $1,000. Now, it's not a problem to transmit Bitcoin right now today. What gives it the value, why people are going into it, is the fact that it's a censorship resistant, that every 10 minutes there's a block being mined. Other blockchains really don't have this. This is what gives it value. It's not the fact that, oh, it moons or goes up. I don't give a shit for that. I care that the fact that I can travel with my seed phrase around the world, it's portable digital gold, and I don't need my Bitcoin to be transacted within a second. And this is why Lightning Network exists, and this is why even in Ethereum, when they talk about how do we scale Ethereum, it's not scaling on the root chain, so the Ethereum chain. It's scaling on layer 2, layer 3. This is the same thing when it comes to Lightning Network. It's a layer 2 solution on top of the root chain. The root chain should stay as is. It should be almost impossible to update, almost like you still need to update it. And the root chain is the security behind it, because without the security of the root chain, all layer 2, layer 3 is useless, is garbage. There's no reason for them to even exist.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Good insight right there. And it was good. I liked going down that rabbit hole there. Ameer, you mentioned Bitcoin being superior to gold. You said it's better. It's a digital gold is better. But I kind of wanted to touch on this interview here. We're seeing gold and silver rise as of lately. What are your thoughts on this? I mean, are you bullish on gold and silver in general? Is it something you like? Is because many people
I'm always bullish. I'm always bullish. You mentioned earlier there's manipulation within the metals, and of course there is. This we have studies on this. It's known. However, the reason why I'm bullish on gold has nothing to do with the fact, okay, yeah, gold is used in some technologies, is used in jewelry. Sure, there's use cases for it. Why I'm bullish on gold, and once again, one of my favorite books is *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah, is mythology, storytelling, right? For the longest period of time, since the eons from the beginning, gold is a value, right? So we roughly know how much gold there is around the world, roughly. Like it's not exact science. This can change. We can have a meteorite, or we can start doing mining of meteors, which they're doing right now. We may find like a massive supply in gold to change the dynamics of everything. But more or less, it's the narrative that matters. Gold is valuable, and that's all that matters. Is it portable? No. Most people buy IOUs of gold. So they'll go somewhere and someone will give them a certificate. I don't recommend a certificate. I recommend having the physical thing. Now, why I like gold or what I like silver for regular people is I just like to hedge it against the dollar, right? And so if you look at the dollar since the 1970s, since the depegging of the gold, since quantitative easing, and as of late, people talking about MMT theory, dollar does not hold its value. So no matter even the manipulation within the gold markets or what has been happening, price going up or down, if you elongate the timeline of gold, let's say from the 70s today, you just holding gold is 1,000 times X superior than you holding cash. The real story here to tell people, whether it's Bitcoin or gold, is cash sucks. It's the worst store of value. It serves you no purpose, and you should be cash poor, asset rich.
Ameer, let's talk a little bit about, in closing here, what are your thoughts on catalysts for crypto? Or do you think that we've kind of hit a temporary, peak here where, things are good, they're fairly valued. And in general, like what would be a fair valuation going forward in your head where you're like, man, $50,000 Bitcoin, I would be great from where we are now, but I wouldn't sell it here because I think that it's going to 100 or 200,000, and I might consider selling it at that point. But I mean, if you can just give us some general idea of what are you anticipating in the crypto markets and what's going to drive that going forward?
So from the regulatory aspect, I think an ETF will drive a lot of stuff. Um, Now from the retail side of things, I actually think Libra in the long run is good for crypto. I know a lot of people don't think so. Remember, the penetration in crypto is small. Maybe it's like a percentage around the world. And so just imagine if a digital currency like Libra that has how many users, like 1 billion users, imagine all of a sudden overnight, a billion users are now exposed to crypto. Even though it's not a real crypto, it's a digital currency, they go down the rabbit hole and they start investigating further. The more users that we have, the better. And eventually they discover Bitcoin, it all leads to Bitcoin or Ethereum. Like I said, it's Zipf's law. You're going to have a couple of them to dominate everything on a percentage wise, and there's a long tail curve afterwards. And so for me, if I look a couple of things, I look at small market cap right now. Only a percentage of people have it. Still, it doesn't have full regulatory approval around the world. So you got to take this in consideration. Imagine if we have 5% of people using crypto. Imagine if there is regulatory approval within ETFs or some form of an index for Bitcoin. Just keep that, and keep those, and then to couple with the fact that Bitcoin isn't a depreciating asset, because as it ages, the rewards go down, the amount of Bitcoin goes down. And so basically there is a limited supply, just very standard supply dynamics. And so you take all these things into consideration within the equation for me, and also the narrative. Above all, the narrative matters the most. Digital gold, people can call a store of value. For me, I look at censorship resistance. And so I take all these things within my formula. And for me, I'm like, it's still undervalued type of asset.
Yeah, so powerful. I mean, I'm so excited. Like I've said this before, we're going to talk about, 2017, what we saw in crypto, and, probably what we're seeing in 2020. We're going to tell our kids and grandkids about this. I mean, seriously, generations down the road, because, what we're stumbling across here is such a pivotal, game-changing technology for money. And I
Yeah.
like what you said there about Libra, because and I've thought about that too, right? We've seen Coinbase be largely responsible for 2017, and it's not for the reasons why everyone got into crypto. It's not because
Mm-hmm.
everyone wanted to link up their bank account and you know hand over their identity to transact, but it onboarded so many people to this new technology, and it went into a craze, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So Amir, if you would give the listeners the address, the website address, what they can expect to hear from you, the kind of work you do, and what you offer. Let us know.
Yeah, the best way to contact me is go to blockgeeks.com, and we specialize in education. And in the last 6 months, we launched something pretty cool called Learn and Earn. So people can earn Satoshis, people can earn ETH, people can earn DAI on our platform by learning. So we have more than 10,000 hours of different courses. We have students all around the world. We work with enterprise clients. And if you want to reach out to me personally, Twitter's the best. It's just my name, Ameer Rosic.
Amir, your first class. Thanks so much for coming on Crush the Street with me today.
Hey, my pleasure.